privacy and how people sometimes take your number without your consent afu wanakupigia wanaku-vibe kando. And my guest over here who goes by the name Tehilla was just giving me his own experience, and he'll be sharing in not too long. Tehilla, karibu.
Thank you so much.
Glad to have you with us.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So introduce yourself first before we get into things.
All right. I'm Tehilla Kachila. I am the CEO of Extant Interactive. I also have a technology startup project known as Grape Technologies. We handle various things, various fields, but I tend to know a bit of everything.
A bit of everything.
Yes.
So that's why we have you here. Good.
Yes.
So now, speaking of matters data privacy, you were telling me your experience. Yes. How demngine alipata namba yako kasema wewe when boyfriend, whether you like it or not. So how was it? How did that happen?
Mark Zuckerberg harakisha story ya wewe kwa sababu in Nairobi there was this building I went to kopa tu chini tao. Apparently there was an intern working there and she had access to ile information naikanga kwa security sheet na kapata namba yangu. So jioni to that very very same day mimi napigiwa simu naulizwa sasa poa mimi nadhani tu ni msee wa kazi. Ni intern amenispoti amenicheki na yako serious ananidai.
Asema potential.
Anasema by the way it is happening.
How crazy is that? People do that.
Yes, people do that.
It happens. Yes. So how safe is our data out here, and just to create an awareness that we have a Data Protection Act now since 2019.
So a lot has happened since 2019. Before 2019, basically our data was ungoverned, meaning a lot of companies took our data and use them for whatever purposes they often tended to use them for. Mostly it's selling, marketing data. So what they tend to do with your data is they take the information you put on your social media profiles, the information you put on your personal media, on your personal profiles. Some even take advantage of the photos that you've taken and the location tags that you put on your photos to determine, and they take all that information, they put it together to make an ID of you. So you probably put location data on Google and some information on Chrome and some information on Facebook and Twitter, and so all that information at some point is taken and put together, and that creates an ID. And you see, as long as these particular social media networks or networks per se have your name and your personal information for contact purposes, they can always attach a face to a name. Most companies nowadays, thanks to the Data Protection Act of 2019 and their own internal company policies, they claim that they do not take your name and attach it to the ID. So it is just ID related to your IP address. IP address is the particular code that is assigned to every device that connects to the internet. Your smartphone, your computer. If your fridge connects to the internet, there are people whose fridges connect to the internet. They are all assigned an IP address. Okay. And that IP address is, let's say, your marker, your footprint, your signature in the digital world. And that's how they know it's you and not anybody else. It is the same thing it's the same way that telecom services like Safaricom, Telcom, they know which sites you're accessing. For example, if you have free WhatsApp or free Facebook, they know you're accessing Facebook and not WhatsApp, so that they know whether to give you the free access to Facebook or free access to WhatsApp. That's how they know. They use the IP address. Okay. So a lot has changed, but basically Kenyans, I feel we don't know how much information we give.
Exactly. And you've talked about these companies accessing our information without our consent. So are these random companies just getting our information online, or are these companies that we have given our information, maybe for the instance where you visit a building, you give your information, your data and all that, or are they just random companies? So
these companies, first of all, are very well known. They are your social media networks. The most common of all is Meta, which is formerly known as Facebook. What people don't do is that they don't read the terms and conditions before joining into any social media network. because in the terms and conditions of any social media network, there is a clause in there that allows them to take your personal information and use them. And you can't blame them, because for sites like Facebook and Twitter to be free, they have to use your information to make money elsewhere. There is a known rule in the tech space. If the app is not free, then you are the product.
Wow, if the app is not free, then you are the product.
Yes.
All right.
So what happens is, in place of you paying for the application or paying for use on the application, you find that they take your data and they sell it for the money. That's where they get their profits. So to answer your question directly, we give them that information freely based on the terms and conditions of the site that we're joining.
Okay.
Yes.
So is this where why people say that data is the new fuel?
Yes.
So because they make money through it, it's a precious commodity now.
Yes. Now let's get to the scary bit. This is how crucial data is. We've seen a lot of spy movies, a lot of James Bond spy movies. A lot of the smarts they seem to get, how they're always 2 steps ahead of the protagonist, how they seem to know where the protagonist is going, and they take information, basically this same data. They use this data to predict, and they analyze this data. They can track your routines. They can track your little they can track your routines, where you go day to day, what you do day to day, how you live your day to day, using these little bits of data, and they can map out literally your life with the data that they have.
Wow, that is very crazy. I remember the last time we talked to you, I almost got out of social media.
Yeah.
So now they're using my data, and I think I saw a documentary, again still on Netflix, on how they predict your behavior. They almost know who you're going to talk to today,
yes,
who you interact with. So how is that? How can we cap that? As data subject, how do I protect myself from this?
Okay, so first of all, as I had told you back in 2019, first of all, we are already too far off in terms of the data that we give. Already, with your location on with your location on, they know most things. Google's Android software will show location tracking even after you turn your location off. I know it is a bit scary, but basically I can say there's nothing to fear. For now, there's nothing to fear, because most of the only thing these companies do is that they take your information and they use it to sell you stuff. So that's the most they do with your data. And there have been a lot of laws that have been applied around the world and in Kenya as well, to ensure that your data does not do anything else.
Okay, and I'd want to come in just right there and just to relate it to how someone can relate it to, how you get on Instagram or on Facebook, and then you get adverts of something maybe you searched for one time.
Yes.
Now you're getting it every time. Kingia urona, where to eat something. If you search a lot, if you Google a lot on food, that's what you keep getting, the adverts on food. So that's how they use your data to target you,
basically,
for commercial purposes. And now you've said that it's safe now them just having our data and everything, because they're using it for commercial reasons only.
All right. Allow me to ask your audience a question. Okay, to tell your audience something, basically. Instagram is awesome because they don't tell you who looks at your profile. They only tell you who likes your photos. They only tell you who has followed you. It's nice and it's also not nice. For little pet peeves like stalking on your crush, maybe yes. But for instances of actual proper stalking, it can get a bit scary. The thing is, this is a new normal for us. Entering the digital space, it's a new normal. And so for our audience, I can say this will totally depend on you. Whether you want to freely give your information or you don't want to give your information. Already, for those who do not want to give their information, there are many sites on the internet that help you with that. People go to the extent of changing the entire operating system, changing the way they live. Mark Zuckerberg himself lives in a data data bubble, meaning his house cannot be spotted on Google Maps, cannot be spotted publicly, and the data that is used within his house stays within his house. But there's no need for us to be paranoid because I remember the interview we had in 2019, and I got a lot of people paranoid. It's just that sometimes the thing with data is that with all things there's a good and a bad aspect to it. Amazon predicted a pregnancy for a lady before she even knew she was pregnant and sent her a baby package.
Yes,
she was shocked. Her family was shocked. It was terrifying.
Very.
However, to the audience, this is up to you. In Kenya, what we are currently doing with Grape Technologies, me, Keith, and Joseph, we are currently trying to build an operating system. It's something in the works that allows us to share of our own free will with our own values.
Okay.
Meaning, whatever data you want to share, you're allowed to share, and whatever data you do not want to share, you keep it.
All right.
However, of course, it's also subject to whatever applications you use. To the audience, I'd say this: if you want to give your data freely, and you want to know how much data you give, kindly read that long, very long, and readable terms and conditions before signing into any application, before registering at any bank, before taking up any requests, because those terms and conditions state exactly what the company is going to do,
how they're going to use your data.
Exactly.
All right, so let me take a break, and then we come back to talk more on data privacy and bring it back to Kenya. What rights we have as the data subjects, right? Okay, so let's take the short break, and we'll be right back.
Y254 Imagine.
Kupata kumpenda mtu kama skiza tune kwenye simu yako, bonyeza *811 *398#.
Mapenzi si kumpenda mtu kwa kuwa amekamilika, kwani nawe pia una mapungufu yako. Kwa hivyo mapenzi ni kumpenda mtu na mapungufu yake.
Kupata kumpenda mtu, bonyeza *811 *398#. *811 *398#.
This is a place of transformation.
I impress him. This guy knows everything.
A place of motivation. This is a place of information. Let's talk about social issues. Let's talk about life issues.
When a woman earns her own money.
Let's talk about relationships.
The ex could have a weakness that the current, it's not, even if it's not about cooking.
Let's talk about you. Tune in to Y254 TV each and every Thursday from 11 a.m. My name is Ram Aguko, and this is Power Talk.
Follow me to Gaza, 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 Gaza. Follow me to Gaza, Gaza.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest stand-up show right here in the 254. My name is Feline Jenna, representing for Bounce Nation.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, my name is King Kingsley Kamakawa, representing hashtag Bounce Nation.
Highway. Here is the highway. Umaka Highway.
We link up each and every Tuesday and Thursday from 4 p.m. to 6:45 in the p.m.
Yes, of course, you had it right. Make sure Chango Mayote. I'll be playing you and serving you the best of mixes at Y254. To me, hashtag Bounce Nation.
Not just that, we'll have trendy conversations as well as fire interviews.
If you agree, mama lato. Wabebe, stilo. Wabebe wasikia. Hiyo jua ni ya mvua na ni kali. gotta have a dance. Oh baby, gotta have a dance. You go for my dance.
You don't wanna be high like me. Never really know why like me. You don't have to wanna step off that roller coaster and all alone, all alone.
We a go bar, we a go bar, we go in, you go do. All of the blessings fall on my yard. Blessings stay for my yard. And like I
Y254. Imagine.
Yes, we are right back, still talking about data privacy and protection in Kenya, and of course touching on social media and how it affects us. We have Tehilla for that. So Tehilla, before we went on a break, while we were on a break actually, we were talking about Meta, previously Facebook, and the case that was there when Francis Hogan, a whistleblower, came in and said that Facebook was out for profit making than for people. What is your comment on this?
Profit over people. I'd say this is typical companies. Any company that is out to make money will naturally have profits over people. However, I believe there are lots of changes that have been made within Meta themselves and across the social media verse, if I could term it as that, to ensure that they are more people friendly. For example, during the break we were talking about how it could be dangerous sometimes if your mental health is not particularly all right. You see, there's something known as the algorithm, and this is how they automate their systems to bring you content. Basically, the algorithm works like this. If you're interested in music, they'll bring you more music. If you're interested in art, they'll bring you more art. If you're interested in politics, they'll give you politics. Now, unfortunately, in the past, with this algorithm in place, if you were considering suicide, they'd bring you suicide quotes, sad quotes.
How crazy is that? They motivate you more into
unfortunately
to commit suicide.
And I appreciate whistleblowers like Hogan because they bring out things that companies are doing and they cause companies to change. I'm sure before the hearing and the whistleblowing, Facebook hadn't really taken too keenly the issue of teenagers and mental health. Teenagers are very impressionable people, and unfortunately, social media can tend to be a very difficult place to be in terms of mentally and psychologically, because there are lots of people who are living the lives they want to live. The people who are living their dreams and they're there and they aren't living their dreams, and because we are living in a generation where we want this fame, we want this life now because we see it right in front of us. It becomes difficult to keep yourself in this space mentally, psychologically, and unfortunately it leads to things like suicide. So now things are changing. In the past, more people
they were bad. So now, still on social media, for someone who wants to limit how, to just keep their social media private, maybe something like on Facebook, how do you limit who tags you, something like that? How do you just keep your privacy to yourself on social media?
The first instant thing you can do to protect yourself from people who are not Facebook, if you want to keep yourself private, is take advantage of private accounts. If you can lock your account for private use, have a limited follow account, check who your followers are. This is possible on Instagram, it's possible on Twitter, it's possible on Facebook. It's literally possible on nearly in any any social media platform that exists. Take advantage of private accounts if you want your account to be private. Unless, of course, you're a public figure, that unfortunately means you'll have to have your life out there for everyone to see, because you, of course, need to keep people informed on what you're doing. I recently made my private accounts public because of the fact that things are changing around my life, and I'm slowly becoming some sort of a public figure. So I had to change that. But before then, I took advantage of private accounts, and it really helps because you can only be followed by people who you know.
All right.
You can be followed by people who you know. You can track what they like, how they reply to your comments, who replies to your comments, to prevent spammers, spammers and scammers from using your account to promote themselves, and things like those. Another thing, as I told you in 2019, there is this site, www.takeout.google. What you do once you access that site is that Google gives you an analysis of all the data they have on you and what they have used it to determine, and what steps you can take to either renew that information, meaning you clear previous data and use a different advertiser ID, as they call it, or Google ID, to keep to just clear out your information and keep as little information of you online as possible. With Meta, there's not really much you can do because it's a social media site, and you will want people to relate with your activities, meaning you will constantly give out data. However, as I had said, there is no particular need to worry, because what they mostly do is that they take your data and they sell it to third party. So for example, you've been talking about going to Ole Sereni a lot. That information will be sold to Mara Ole Sereni, and all of a sudden you're seeing ads from Mara.
You're like, why is this is destiny? You're like,
yeah, it's a sign.
It's a sign. I need to go.
So and data, this particular use of information is not really bad if you think about it, because companies oftentimes compete for this information, and based on the information you give them, the best people for this particular quest that you're looking for. For example, Mara or Lesereni in this instance, probably you both profit from having that information shown to you. For example,
how do I profit?
How you profit is this: they literally make it easier for you to reach companies, and they make companies easier for them to reach you. So for example, if you have been looking for, let's say, you've been looking for a particular type of USB flash drive, and you've been asking around, even on social media, the USB flash drives companies will
come to you.
It's like stopping. It's like stopping on the way to Mombasa, and then those mango guys, they come to you. You know,
it
makes it easy. I don't have to get off the bus to go look for the mangoes. They bring the mangoes to you. So in that way, it's profitable for both of you. Yeah.
Okay. So now, why then do we need the Data Protection Act in Kenya?
We need the Data Protection Act in Kenya for cases of stalkers, for cases where your information is taken away from you. Malware, which is software is designed to disrupt your systems, either on phone or on PC. Viruses that can take your personal information and use them for nefarious purposes. Sometimes they use your bank account details and they take your money. Recently we had this issue where the OCPD of I don't know where was scammed by having his entire SIM card replaced simply by taking simple pieces of information like your M-Pesa PIN and your phone number. So that's why we need the Data Protection Act, because all that is data, and people can use data to track you, to predict your life, to predict your future interactions, to predict your current interactions. And for that reason, you need to have your data protected.
Okay.
Yes.
And who's in charge of my data when I give it out, when I go to a certain company? Those that have my company, who's in charge when my data is misused? Who do I sue? Who do I go to?
First of all, your data goes to the companies that give you access. For example, Meta. You can sue Meta just as they were sued in the United States. You can sue Meta. You can take them before a judicial hearing to answer to the allegations. You can start a petition against them. You can sue them particularly. You can also contact the relevant government authorities in terms of data protection. There is now a department for data protection, cybersecurity. You can contact them if you feel or if you believe your data is being used against you in an incident of stalking, in an incident of information being used against you, like the SIM swapping thing. You can also contact your ISP, that is Internet Service Provider, Safaricom, Telcom, Airtel, and talk to them concerning data protection, and they most likely will offer help.
So would you say we are at a better place now with the Data Protection Act in place?
Yes, we're in a far better place now. Something very interesting to note is that phone manufacturers as well are not away from this. If you use Tecno, Infinix, Itel, they post ads to you, right, within the interface, and sometimes Xiaomi, depending on which type of phone you use, which means the phone companies themselves pick data off of you. So the Data Protection Act allows the government to track what these companies, Tecno, the Transian group of companies which owns Tecno, Infinix, and Itel, it gives them a standard to follow. You're not supposed to do this, you're not supposed to do this, you're not supposed to do that. Before then, they could take any and all information that they could out of your phone and use them for whatever purposes they so wish.
And now in the electioneering period, this is the first time that we have a Data Protection Act during election. So what role will it play? You know, we have had incidences where people have been registered to political parties that they don't even know about, you know?
Yes.
So where does the Data Protection Act come into play?
The Data Protection Act comes into play. In fact, it gives citizens, it empowers citizens, because now you can actually sue the government in cases like those, where you are put in a political party you did not subscribe to or you do not align to. If you find that you are registered to a political party, for example, that you're not aligned to, you can sue the government for using your information against you to do things like those. Internationally, there are things there. You can sue international companies. You can sue companies. Facebook again was on the spotlight for this with their collaboration in the collaboration Cambridge Analytica, where they used their information and polls to align people towards a certain particular political candidate as a service, which means they can use that data to push people towards a certain candidate as a tactic, as a service that they pay for. So with the Data Protection Act, you are now empowered as a citizen to have more control over your data and have the government take the blame if any information is taken taken away from you without
your consent.
Exactly.
So as we wrap this up, what are some of the basic rights that we need to know that we have in the Data Protection Act as the data subjects?
As data subjects, you are allowed to give consent to give data. Meaning, no company should force you to give data. No company should tell you you must give our data. You must give us data.
The data.
And as I said, most companies don't even have to, because they use the terms and conditions that they write and most people don't read. Another thing is that you can sue as a citizen now. As a Kenyan, it is your right to sue a company if you feel that they are using your data inappropriately. However, of course, you will have to read the Constitution to underline, to know where, of course, what constitutes an inappropriate use of your data. For example, you can't sue Google for using your location history when you've turned your location on. As a citizen, you're also allowed to consult. You're allowed to consult the government on information relating to your data and how much data you give. And
that where it's going to be used, how it's going to be used.
Yes.
Yeah. And you also you have the right to retrieve your data later on if you feel that you don't want them to retain your data anymore.
Yes,
right?
It's also a right. However, that right pertains to each individual service you join. For example, with Meta, they have their own policy for retrieving data. Twitter has its own policy, and so on and so forth. But of course, they all have to follow the law of the state or the country they are in.
Okay, thank you very much, Tehilla.
It's a pleasure.
Anyone who takes something from this, what would it be? This is your camera, and you can share also your social media handles.
All right. My punchline is basically what I had said earlier. If an application is free, then you are the product. Not to worry, because they only use it they only sell your information to people who most likely might benefit you, companies who will also sell you other products. So it's basically a merchant's world. I am Tehilla. You will find me on all social media platforms as Tehilla Kachila. It's the same across all social media platforms.
All right. Thank you very much, Tehilla.
It's a
It was
pleasure.
amazing having you around.
All right.
So that has been Tehilla Kachila talking to us about data privacy and protection. That's about it on Sport and Tech, but we'll be right back with music and lifestyle, of course, with Valentine.